And how you did the mix. So you said that a lot of the mix actually happened already at Valentine, as you got basically got the sounds that you wanted.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff was just like some EQ, that was just a phase flipper because I think the return on the desk was out of phase, so I chose wrong, which I find that a lot is like based on the room you're in is you can make the wrong choice with polarity reversal. Mm-hmm. This one, nothing. This one has a little top end and a little lower mid scooped out. If you're talking about like a lot of plugins, I know people who have both, all through A through J, all filled on every track.
I have seen it, and then it goes to a bus with another 10 plugins, and then it goes to another 10 plugins.
So we're talking about like a compressor or an EQ, or sometimes both on. It's like having a desk, like a console.
So, but just the first stage, then when you were in Valentine and then later in United, you were then kind of rough mixing essentially. So were you using outboard then, or were you then already sometimes? I
was just rough mixing on the desk.
Yeah.
So there's the, like it at the top here, you can see that that's 616. I think I'm Valentine rough. Right. So here's the rough mix from Valentine. That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
That's my rough mix, at Valentine's. So,
but that was before overdubs and whatever else they added to the song.
Yeah, it's before overdubs, but it's the same guitars, it's the same vocal, it's the same bass, same drums.
So the outboard that you used, so was this mostly at Valentine, or did you then in United you already went into Pro Tools there for monitoring? So did you also record then straight into Pro Tools and start rough mixing in Pro Tools? Was it all rough mixing on the desk and then printing?
No, the rough mixes were all on the desk.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And what kind of things would you use? This desk EQ, desk compression? You had outboard there, or?
Well, the Valentine, I would just do it faders and pans. That's it. They have a couple nice chambers, and I had my Watkins tape echo, but I didn't have any bus. I don't think I had any bus compression available. And no EQ, so that's just off the desk.
Delays or stuff like that, or?
Well, my Watkins tape echo is my only delay, and then they have chambers and plates,
okay,
and that was it. So very, very just like, this is a rough mix just to get us going.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get too tidy with it. And then and some came out better than others, but there was one day where they sat there and watched me rip like 15 or 20 live mixes, one track after another, just so we had all the different, because we had more songs than that. We had sometimes we had two versions of a song to see where that one could live. And we just went through it. And I think at the end of that day is when Neil realized we had a lot more done than we had hoped to get.
Mm-hmm. And this was still at Valentine.
Yeah. And then we did the same thing at United as well. This one does not have a United rough mix,
but because you got the Pro Tools involved.
Sorry, say it again.
At United, you got Pro Tools involved.
Well, I had been backing up everything to Pro Tools through my Apogee Symphony IO at the end of every day at Valentine as well. So we had the recordings. We had the recordings in there as well. So so there was Pro Tools involved at Valentine, but just as sort of a backup.
Okay, so
and then
no rough mixes in Pro Tools.
No rough mixes in Pro Tools. And then I think the last day of United, I got all the multi-tracks ready and made them come out just a stereo bus in Pro Tools so that just so they could open it and it would play the song, you know?
So just looking at this mix, I mean, over what period of time did all the mixing, was it kind of consecutive? You started one song and then on to the next one, or did you switch per songs on every day? And how long did the whole process take? The whole album.
It probably took a month of organizing the multi-tracks, mixing. What I did with Neil, and I don't know if he appreciated this or not, but I thought it was important, was that I got all the multi-tracks together, and then I mixed about 7 songs and then sent them all to him.
Uh-huh.
And was like, this is kind of where I'm hearing the album go. Because I had to reorient myself with like how I was going to deal with it, as opposed to as opposed to like usually when I get to the end of recording an album and then I just start mixing and we just do a track, I like to do maybe 3 songs every 2 days, you know? So I do one, get it done, start another one, maybe even finish it and, leave it up overnight, put it to bed in the morning, do another one. So every 2 days, get 3 songs. So you can mix an album in, 5 days. But this took much longer because there was a lot of like, okay, did they have the right audio? Did they sample rate convert something? Did they do something to the audio that made it not good anymore? Mm-hmm. And so I would reference my old audio, the original transfers to Pro Tools. And to me, that was very important. Okay. Because I didn't know if the integrity was maintained.
Were you 24-bit, 44.1 or?
96K 24-bit, and then I would switch the sessions to 32-bit once I started mixing.
So you're 96K, and you find that makes a difference?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah. For better or for worse.
So you mixed in 96K?
Yeah, I record everything 96K and I mix it and I maintain it at 96. The other thing is that, there's a lot of record companies who they want everything at 96. They want it archival level. So.
And you sent 96 to the mastering engineer? Bob Ludwig, wasn't it?
Yeah. I sent 96K to Bob Ludwig. And
so did he do the reductions?
Yeah, he masters either, and sometimes in the analog or the digital domain, and or both, and he does the downsampling through his crazy $1 billion a channel sample rate converter.
Mm-hmm. So when you look at this mix, I mean, rather than boringly go through each track, I mean, what was the main thing that you did in terms of adjusting this mix and getting it over the line in the final stage?
I think the main thing, and this may be true of all mixes that I do when I've recorded it, is I try and get the same feeling that made me feel like this is the take. I try and feel the same way that I felt when I said to the room, that's the take we should use, and that can include things like when I had the guitar solo way too loud at one point and people were just kind of like, they got this little surprised look on their face, or like that piqued their interest. So it's like just whatever it takes to make me feel the same way I felt when I put it, when I first recorded it, and was inspired to say that this is right. This is the one. That's what I'm looking for. Because like I said, whenever I record something, I'm not really looking to reinvent the wheel. I'm just looking to try and get the audience to feel like I felt, because that was a good feeling.
So did you edit between takes? I mean, it looks here on the screenshot that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 edits done.
Yeah, it's just the length was edited. See, this is all the same file. Snare 06, snare 06. It's all one take.
Wow.
On this particular song, there are other takes. There are other songs that were not one take.
Okay.
I picked this one because of that guitar solo that I like, you're getting to know these people, and then just have Liam just like play that on the floor with the band. And it's just so, I don't know, it just gripped me. And,
so just to lift something out, what did you do on Neil's vocals? You have 5 plugins there. So what were the treatments that you had there?
They wanted it to be a little distorted, so there's that.
Okay, Devil Lock.
Yeah, the mix is quite low, but just de-essing, level
de-esser.
Yeah, and then
works EQ.
Yeah, little EQ, little limiting.
Universal Audio is 1176.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Okay.
And then, oddly enough, a tape saturation plugin.
Phoenix 2 tape emulation. Okay.
Yeah.
Of the audio, but did he record this vocal at home, or was it recorded in the studio?
I can tell you, this is recorded in the studio.
So it already had tape.
Possibly. There was. I'd have to actually look. It looks like this, already went to tape once.
And then you have a vocal delay from as a send to Echo Boy.
Yeah, little slap.
So, and there's no reverb?
Nope.
So is it because you had reverb in the studio, or no reverb at all?
There's no reverb on this particular vocal.
And was this just on this vocal, or in general that you kept the vocals very dry?
No, the other songs I used my plate. I think my plate was the only reverb I used in the mixing process.
So in a way, it's very old style in that sense as well. But as I said, a moment ago, that the record does not sound old fashioned. I mean, there's obvious that it's a very warm feeling, but we talked about the big bass. It also doesn't sound like it's missing at the high end. So
yeah,
that's just the way you heard it, or a conscious decision, like you don't want it to sound like 1975?
No, there was never any intention to make it sound like an older.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, I don't know, maybe the going to tape and all being in the same room playing in a studio is more akin to, there's a lot of ways to do, there's a lot of ways to record a record, but I guess pulling the music out of your musicians, you want to have them in the environment they're most familiar with, and the way that they're used to doing music, and you don't want that to be an encumbrance, we have to do this in the modern way of doing it. Even though you want your record to sound current, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it in the current way. Just like if you want your record to sound like old, you can use Pro Tools and make like something sound like it was on a wire recorder in the 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways to do it, and even to the point where like the way I mic an acoustic guitar isn't the way that Neil is used to seeing an acoustic guitar being mic'd. And he's just like, I'm just not comfortable looking at the mic there. So he had me move the mic, and it wasn't my choice, and I had to deal with it in the end. But for me, it was far more important for him to be
comfortable,
like emoting as uninhibited as possible, than for me to get the acoustic guitar sound that I thought was correct.
So where would you normally put what microphone would you use, and where do you normally put it?
I think the ones that I was doing, I was just using my 67, and I just kind of keep it a little further away and keep it more over the body. And he was used to it being closer to like that 12th fret idea, which I don't like that. Mm-hmm. I think it's not a good sound. I think it makes the acoustic guitar more of a percussive instrument and less of a harmonic instrument. Mm-hmm. I like to hear the wood on the top.
Yeah.
But and so I think miking the neck of the guitar is a bad idea. But people do it so they don't get the sound hole woof. But that's only because they're putting the mic too close, you know.
But also
and there are other mics that I was using, maybe an M160 or an ED666 or something, where you can get it really, really right up on the guitar, mm-hmm. and it has a great sound. You know, it doesn't have that sound hole woof that Neil was. But the reality is, like, you know, what he's hearing in his head, he kind of moves around to get like that it sounds right in his head. So even if I had put it where I wanted it, he'd probably have moved.
Because he's having headphones on at the same time.
Yeah.
And then he listens.
Well, because like an overdub, yeah. I mean, sometimes he'd use headphones and sometimes he wouldn't. Mostly he would have headphones with one ear off so that he could just have a little more vocal in his ears, okay, while they were tracking. Because the vocal, we didn't really have a vocal monitoring thing other than the headphones. We tried using speakers at one point, but it wasn't as cool. So,
because the thing with acoustic guitars is, you know, people in tracks, most engineers, they kind of cut whatever they cut below 220 or 400 or something like that. You know, they just kind of roll off the low end. You know, whereas if you have the microphone over the body, you get more of the body of the sound.
But yeah, the top of the guitar is the thing that a luthier picks, mm-hmm. as the sound would. Mm-hmm. So don't ignore that.
But it's different if you have a solo guitar. You know, I've done a solo guitar album, and then you just want that one guitar to sound as big and as massive and orchestral as possible. Whereas if you have an acoustic guitar, you want to fit in a track. It depends very much the function it has. You know, in some tracks it is kind of percussive, in other tracks it really needs to give the harmonic body.
Yeah, I just, the musicians I work with, they get the sound to come out of the instrument, and I get the sound from that to the recording. And that's the deal that we have.
Yeah. So there's just the one microphone for you on the acoustic?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And going through a particular mic pre, or is that just do you use anything on the way in, or?
I think I have a pair of Universal Audio 1176 AEs. You know, the anniversary editions that I think sound really good. And I use those quite often. The Little Labs Elemento Pre is a fantastic mic preamp for acoustic guitars because it's got the peaking high pass filter right in it. So you can kind of find that heart of the guitar pretty easily. Just turn the knob until you hear it, you know? Go ahead.
So, sorry, just changing slightly. So what microphone did you use to record Neil's voice?
Sometimes I think on the tracking stuff, we would use Bayer M500s.
Okay.
Which is like one of my favorite. That's like one of my favorite vocal sounds ever is a M500, Bayer M500 on a, and Also an EV666, a lot of EV666 on the whole album. All the guitars, sometimes the vocals, sometimes I'm sure there was one in the drum set somewhere. That's become one of my favorite mics. And they're kind of expensive now. Maybe you shouldn't print that.
Who makes this one?
Electro Voice.
Okay.
Well, they haven't for a long time, and they have a really weird connector on the back, which is a pain in the ass to get.
Mm-hmm. But so when you went home, he used a 269, or did he have something else?
No, he used my 269, and I think he also had his SM7, so he would try it on both.
Yeah.
But yeah, in most cases, I think he ended up with there's a lot of the tracking vocals on the album. A lot of them.
Is it
So
the JSTs? Sorry, on the plugin you have there. Just the one up just above the vocal.
Oh, this J37?
Ah, okay. No, that's the tape one. Okay.
It's just slap.
Yeah. What about, I think a bit up, I saw an acoustic piano. That was kind of heavy.
There was a Wurlitzer.
Right?
Oh, upright piano. Yeah, that Mitchell recorded that at home. I think that's his little. He's got a little Ship's piano.
Okay.
That's what Digidesign plug-in, because that's what Mitchell has.
EQ7, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes if he put a plug-in on and it's like, that's how I'm hearing this sound, then I would leave that, because again, like receiving something that's on tape that has, this kind of pretty dramatic EQ in the bottom. If I were to receive that on tape, I wouldn't be able to change it. So that's the sound. And he wanted it with this spring reverb and some slap. He had all these plugins other than this final EQ, which looks like I'm taking out even more bottom, but let's just see what that sounds like. Yeah, that's his little Ship's piano.
Okay.
Oh, and this is the shill. That's the shill, which is a suitcase piano. It's like a metal harp, and it's like the size of I don't know. It's the size of like a suitcase you might take on a small business trip or something. And I think it's probably 60 keys or something like that. And I may have a picture of it somewhere, but yeah, the shill is a really amazing thing that Tony Berg gave him for his birthday one year.
So that Mitchell used quite a few kind of unusual instruments.
Yeah, and like he's got like clavinet, I think.
Is that a decapitator?
Yeah, I used decapitator on that. And then I've been using this a little bit, trying to get into this thing.
Which is Universal Audio?
It's the Rev A version of,
okay.
There's this. This is. I think this may have been Elroy.
The crystallizer on the on the drums.
Yeah, it's just like sometimes you don't even know all that stuff's in there,
So what was the main thing then? I mean, where was the balance in the panning? Was it mostly already there, or did you still do do volume automation and panning and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, I did it all. I did all that stuff myself, but like again, I didn't want to have something like if they heard something in a certain way, and if they heard something in a certain way and that was working for them as an overdub, if I change the perspective on it, it may no longer work.
Okay.
So I very much paid attention to their rough mixes.
Okay. So you didn't actually go in heavy duty more. I mean, you did talk a bit about making sure the vocal sits right from the beginning to the end and levels are consistent and stuff like that, I would guess.
Yeah, and I definitely adjusted the levels and panning of everything, but not without prior knowledge of what they had been doing.
Well, that's why also that was handy that via Zoom, you get the immediate feedback.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, I like that being louder, or I don't, and Mitchell is a covert operator, so he quite often has stuff that he's like, why is that so loud now? And I was like, well, because I like it. And and he's like, but it's not meant to be loud. And I'm like, but it's good loud. It's
yeah, you get those discussions. But I mean, did you, just looking at your session, just having quickly trawled through, it doesn't look like you have an elaborate setup of aux effects tracks and all those kind of things. So do you work from a template normally, or do you just, this is just
No, I start everyone from scratch.
So then you create your aux tracks if and as needed, but there's not many here. I mean, sometimes people have like dozens of aux tracks or bussing going on.
Yeah. I mean, I had this is a snare trigger. That's just probably going to a. Oh yeah. So I'm just basically I'm using this to duck the mono mic. So this mono mic here.
So SSL waves.
It's just to take a little bit of the snare drum out of that mono mic.
Okay. So do you have
It's not doing much, obviously.
Do you have a master bus that everything goes through and that you then treat, or do you just print a mix externally? Because I don't see a mix print in this session as far as I can see.
This is my master bus on I think on
for the Bax EQ, the Dangerous Bax, and what's the other one there? Universal Audio.
It's 1175, 175B, which I really like. And then, so in my studio, because we were doing this online, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to keep all my to keep going to tape every time. I actually have like the hardware of this Bax EQ and the hardware of the ATR 102, and I don't have a stereo 175. I wish I did. That'd be cool. But I basically model this after my stereo bus in the analog domain.